Instagram. Let's just wait a second here. Are we live on Facebook? We are live on Facebook. Okay, guys. So let's have a little chat today. I have been getting a lot of questions about, my transformation to date and what has gone on to kind of help me balance out my own hormones. And there have been a lot of people coming to me for help with PCOS. So I thought that I would do just a general video on some of the different factors that can affect PCOS. Just a quick disclaimer, this is not to take the advice of anybody but a medical professional. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, so let us have a little bit of a chat. If you are here with me, don't forget to hashtag I'm here so I can see you and let me know kind of how you're feeling, what you're doing, and let's get down to the nitty gritty. So when it comes down to hormone balancing, what does that mean? Hormone balancing is something that affects a lot of women in my direct age range, millennials. So in this kind of phase that we've been going through, a lot of us have been prescribed, hormone replacement therapy, different things along those lines. I don't mean like total hormone replacement therapy. I mean like different levels of birth control, different things from a very young age. And there seems to be some sort of correlation that I've been reading a lot, but that's not to say that it's causation, okay? The jury is definitely still out on that. Correlation does not mean causation. That means it can seem like a coincidence, but it's not the cause, okay? So I just wanted to touch a point on that. The best thing that you can do is talk to your medical team about what is best for you in terms of birth control. So this is not a chat on some of the demonizing things that I've been seeing around the internet, like birth control causes, whatever. I would suggest that you start reading some medical journals if you have the ability to read them. And if you don't, ask lots of questions from professionals that you can count on. So let's have a little bit of a chat here on PCOS. PCOS is something called Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. And it's basically a condition in which the ovaries produce a really large or abnormal amount of androgens, which are male sex hormones, and they usually present in women in small amounts. Okay. And so polycystic ovarian syndrome usually typically describes the numerous little cysts, which are just fluid-filled sacs, that form in the ovaries. And this can lead to some really uncomfortable things. Not everybody with this disorder develops cysts. Some do, some don't, okay? I am reading notes that I did from across my research to kind of prepare for this chat. It's been a week coming. So, in a case where women don't create as many of the hormones that they need to, basically sometimes they don't ovulate, which is, when the little ovary produces an egg and it travels down the fallopian tubes and all that fun stuff. But basically, the ovaries can develop really small cysts when lots of ovulation doesn't happen. And these cysts create that male hormone, the male sex hormone called androgens. And females with PCOS often have higher levels of androgens. And this causes women to have like a problem with their menstrual cycle, and it can cause a lot of the symptoms that we see with PCOS. And that being said, some of those symptoms are, very, how would I put this? Very, very different for the person, and they can be construed across many different boards. So if you suspect that you have this, I would highly recommend, again, getting it checked out and ruling everything out. Some of these symptoms that are really common are missed periods, ovaries that look really large or have a lot of cysts, lots of excess body hair. A lot of the time, they'll get some on their chest or maybe some stomach or sometimes along the chin a little bit here. Typically, we see, belly-focused weight gain, lots of acne and oily skin. We might actually see thinning hair, and this is a common problem when it comes to hormones. And this can lead to infertility as well. So it's not a small problem. It's something that can be treated. It's something that can be managed. I do not think that there is a cure to my knowledge, okay? So whenever we're dealing with these kind of things, they're typically diagnosed through ultrasound and blood tests. And a lot of the times, we actually treat it through changes in diet and activity. What? Yes, that's right. We can help your symptoms with diet and activity. So, having a very specific diet that works for you, diet not as in diet to lose weight, diet as in your nutrition plan. What do you eat in a day and what works for your body is going to be different for me than it looks like for you, right? So, changes in that diet and healthy activity can help you to lose weight and reduce symptoms, but they can also help you to aid in the insulin digestion a lot better. It'll help you to lower blood glucose levels because you're actually, digesting things properly. And sometimes it can even help women start to ovulate again. So this is a really amazing thing, but it does create work. I mean, anything worth having does require some work. You didn't get here overnight. It's not going to be fixed overnight. Other things, speaking to your medical professional, of course, there are some medications, to my knowledge, that can assist in ovulation and helping with some of these different pains that women with PCOS tend to go through. Danielle, kind of to answer your question, yeah, a lot of the symptoms with PCOS sometimes overlap with endo. So there's a lot of different things that can go down. And when it comes to endo, that's a whole other can of worms. We can touch on that on a different day, but you're going to see a lot of kind of overlap. A lot of the hormone issues have a lot of overlap. For example, just a random side note, you guys probably know, if you've been following me a little while, I have thyroid problems. And part of that was actually quite a lot of hair loss, like we just mentioned. And so these are little baby hairs that are growing back after a ton of issues with some balding. See how I have like this tiny little hair? They're actually hair sprayed down right now, so I don't look like I have crazy amounts of flyaways. But that is a reality that I've been dealing with. Like, they're everywhere and they're ferocious all in the front. Right around here too, you see a ton of little babies. So on top of everybody's normal baby hair, mine are like on steroids, basically. So that basically just tells me that I'm finally not fixed, but it's moving back in the right direction to see, an inch or two of growth. That means for a good 3 to 6 months that it's been, the right amount of food and exercise and repair. So there are quite a few things that we can touch on, but what I really wanted to hammer home is this myth that you have to eat super low carb whenever you have PCOS. That is a crock. So when it comes to PCOS and a lot of hormone conditions, for some reason, everybody seems to think that you have to cut carbs, increase proteins. There is some research that indicates that intermittent fasting is a very positive side effect. Moderate intermittent fasting can produce great side effects for people with PCOS. So doing like an 18 and 6 or 16 and 8 type of fast, meaning you'd eat all your food within a 6 to 8 hour window, seems to help. Now for ladies, we would want to start at like a 10-hour eating window and then find what is best for us. And again, if you're not sure, that's something that you should probably seek some advice on, okay? Now, part of this whole myth that we have to eat super low carb really drives me nuts, because carbs are really important when it comes to your day-to-day. And the reason why people think that you need to have low carb is because with PCOS, a lot of the time comes insulin resistance. And insulin resistance means that your body is resistant to basically digesting carbs. To keep things simple, it means that your body really doesn't love digesting carbs. And then it can promote some fat gain and indigestion and a whole bunch of things. So, the insulin, what it does is, it's one of the main things that we can do to help you when you have hormone imbalances and specifically PCOS. One of the notes that I have here is that women who have PCOS, more than 50% will develop diabetes or pre-diabetes before the age of 40. And of course, that's directly tied into how your body produces and metabolizes insulin. So, having a diet that meets your unique needs, that assists you in maintaining a very healthy weight, and promotes good insulin levels can actually help you to feel better and kind of stave off that predisposition or potential predisposition to diabetes, because that is no fun. So, a lot of the research that I've been able to kind of focus on has found that people, you know, what we eat has a really deep correlation for PCOS. Okay. There is no specific PCOS diet. I want to clarify that right now. There is no specific PCOS diet that seems to go around the board. What you'll see commonly is people doing really low carb, because a physician will say, okay, do really low carb. And then they just take it to an extreme instead of taking that as moderate carb. Because a lot of the times, whenever I actually do speak with people who have PCOS and have a hard time losing weight, a lot of the time they're eating very simple foods, very simple carbs, which are quick digesting and really hard for your body to metabolize when you face insulin resistance. A lot of the times they're eating really high meat, really high simple carbs, white rice, white pastas, sugary stuff. And instead of focusing on whole foods, that's the route that they go on. They go on that, kind of stereotypical North American diet that we see. And this is one of the things that assists in making their pickle just a little bit worse. Okay, I'm just going to double check the comments here. Okay, so that being said, some of the most common ways for you to healthfully manage this, okay, healthfully manage this would be focusing your attention on what I call the not boring food. Okay. I'm a big believer that when it comes to your health and your nutrition, you should be having fun in the kitchen. You don't need to be eating super boring, nasty food. Okay. So, what this can look like in your unique case as somebody who might be afflicted with PCOS, you can focus on these, and the general populace can benefit from these general pain points. Okay. So, you should be focusing on unprocessed food in its whole form. That would look like, having a banana versus a candy that looks like a banana, or having an actual potato instead of that box of mashed potatoes, or having whole grain or sprouted breads instead of white bread. Things like this. You want unprocessed foods in their most natural state as much as possible. You're going to have the most nutrition and the most value, and you'll feel the best with this. You do want to be focusing on high fiber foods. High fiber foods, that's pretty much any vegetable, any fruit, and that is not found in most of our animal meats, okay? Fibrous foods are vegetables and plants, okay? I'm sorry to tell you, it is the plants, the veggies and the fruit, okay? You can look at integrating more healthy fatty fish. That could look like wild salmon, some tuna, sardines, and mackerel in smaller amounts. Keep in mind the mercury levels, so keep that maybe like once a week. You can look at dark red fruits such as like grapes and blueberries and blackberries. Broccoli and cauliflower are a really inexpensive and awesome food that you can be focusing on. But to help you with the fibrous kind of aspect while keeping high protein, I personally and a lot of other people recommend that you start playing with beans and lentils and legumes. If you want some fun recipes, you can look up like Latino frijoles. You can look up, um, you know, lentil dishes. A lot of Indian cuisine uses a lot of these. So you could look up different curries and different masalas that would be of interest to you. And most of all, you can play with soups in this department. You can look at adding healthier versions of fats. So, of course, avoiding fried food. And if you're going to use oil, make sure it's a high quality olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. And when you're playing with more of like a chocolate craving, focus on dark chocolate in moderation. One of the main tips and tricks that I give my clients is to actually have one of their favorite dark chocolates in the freezer ready to go. When you get it, you cut it up in the squares already, and then you shove it in the freezer for whenever you need like an emergency dose of chocolate. Sometimes you just need an emergency dose of chocolate. That's what happens. And of course, playing with anti-inflammatory spices like turmeric and cinnamon are really beneficial to everybody in general. So what I'm trying to say is, do you notice that a lot of these foods that I'm mentioning are actually moderate carb? They're not super high or super low. They're moderate. So if you have a hormone condition, it's again going to be very individual and based on that person's individuality, but you should still be introducing high quality, beautiful food into your day to day. And before you tell me it's really expensive, yes, there has been an inflation on groceries. Yes, meats have gone up. But guys, I literally bought a week ago a 4 kilo bag, meaning 10 pounds almost, of red lentils for $5. So if you're looking to like have some tips and tricks to lower your grocery bill, mix up your proteins. You don't always have to be having meat, potatoes, and veg every day. That gets really boring. So instead, start playing in different modalities to help A, increase your mineral and nutrient exposure, B, your palate and enjoying different types of food, and C, it's definitely going to help the wallet if you're not eating a steak every damn day. So I just want to point out that some of the research that I did definitely look at focused on two kind of main camps. When people focused on food that was whole and a little bit moderate carb, they were able to see their insulin metabolism increase and lower their cholesterol levels. People who focused on a diet of higher quality fats like monounsaturated, so the avocados, the coconuts, things like this, they were able to, see more weight loss, basically. That was the note. Sorry, mind blank 101. A couple things that I do want you to avoid if you do have PCOS or another hormone condition. One thing that I would highly recommend that you do is stay away from fried foods and fast foods. I know it sucks. You can still have it once in a while. Once in a while, meaning like once every few weeks. Okay, especially if you're in this stage of like flare-ups and pain and everything else. I'm really sorry, but it does take groundwork and it does take time for you to balance that stuff out. And it does require you to stay away from certain things that are going to make you angry. Okay? A good example of this is I have personally had to reduce my meat intake because of my thyroid. This is my body in particular, clarify. Not every person with a thyroid condition has to do this, okay? For me, I had to introduce a lot more plant proteins into my day to day. Well, on Saturday, I had a feeling this was going to happen. I went for, Carnival, which is a all you can eat barbecue smorgasbord of Brazilian barbecue. I had a flare up to all flying pee with that. So in 3 days, I've been able to get it back down. Guys, on Sunday, I was like a red blob. So that I knew better. I knew what the repercussions were. My body definitely told me this was an example of once in a while. So you should also be staying away from sugary beverages such as, good old pop and energy drinks. You should probably stay away from processed meats. That would be like hot dogs, processed sausages, and like luncheon meats of like the questionable bologna and spam, okay? Keep your red meats at bay. Like once in a while is fine, not an everyday occurrence. And last but not least, you should probably just stay away from really solid fat and really refined carbs like white breads, mass-produced pastries, margarine, shortening, lard. These have been really correlated with PCOS in particular, okay? So the easiest kind of train of thought that I would suggest for you is make your shit at home, even if you're lazy. Batch cook so that when you are lazy, it's already made, or have emergency food in the freezer. Other things that you can do to help improve your lifestyle. are the following. And it's really, really important that you don't focus on just the food here. Back to, focusing on just the food is one aspect, but there's a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to hormone balancing and PCOS. Moderate supplementation for what your body needs. Okay, if your blood work's indicating you have low iron, you should be supplementing iron as per your direction. If you are eating 100% plant-based, you should probably look at a B12 supplement. If you are, really low energy, guys, we live in Canada and the US, a lot of us, you should be probably looking at a D3 supplement. Normal things. The other thing that I would be focusing on is stress management. This is the number one thing that I talk about to my clients and try and teach them how to do. Stress management is key. Stress management looks like de-stressing, self-care, actually processing your emotions, dealing with your anxieties. This is what I mean. It's work. You should be focusing on lots of sleep. If your body, especially as someone who might be afflicted with a hormone condition, you might need more sleep than the average person. I slept 10 hours today. That is an abnormal amount for me. I can usually get by with 7 to 8. But I used to function pre-hormone condition on 5 to 6. I used to function very well. Now that is absolute death to me. So learning your body's sleep patterns, if you sleep better in the late morning, or like if you go to bed later and wake up later, if you have that capacity and you do well with that, then listen to your body. If you're an early bird, go to bed earlier to make sure you get that time. We also want to be focusing on water intake. That is something that's severely lacking. Fiber, probably 25 to 35 grams is normal and considered healthy for a woman. 30 to 35 more so for men, 25 to 30 for women. And most of all is learning to embrace this journey. It is not going to get fixed overnight. I'm going to tell you that now. You think it'll take 3 months? The reality is that it'll take a lot longer. It might happen quickly if it's caught early. I am in month 20 of my journey. 20. I went from abs personal trainer, like I had abs, to not knowing what the F was happening to me, to hypothyroid diagnosis, still not functioning because I refused medication for a while. For me, myself, I needed it. My thyroid was getting worse and worse, to figuring out what dosage worked best for me. And in that time period, I also focused on fixing my nutrition, focusing on anti-inflammatory foods, focusing on making shit at home, cutting alcohol, getting sleep, all the boring stuff. I still have a blast. I still see my friends frequently. I still have social outings. They understand. As long as I tell them exactly what I need, they'll support me. So make sure that you set up those healthy boundaries for yourself. Start this journey of exploration because it's going to take a while. And if you need extra help, do not hesitate to reach out to somebody who knows and can help you. Those might look like fitness professionals, like myself. I'm a hormone specialist, personal trainer, nutrition, all that fun stuff. You might be looking at your physician and asking to have your medication reassessed. It looks at different things, but they are all tools in your toolbox and you should be looking at them all. So if I don't have any questions or concerns or comments, I will get off for now. But my specific journey, in the photos that I shared in my story, those are about 4 months apart. Okay. So take that with a grain of salt. Don't compare yourself to me. Don't compare yourself to others. Your journey is individualistic. So the story that I shared earlier is about a 4-month difference. Okay. So that being said, I actually weigh only maybe 3 or 4 pounds less, but my waist is almost 10 inches smaller. So it makes a very big difference in how you carry yourself and knowing that you can control your flare-ups. You can control your health. You have the tools at your capacity, friends. It's up to you to use them. Use the tools in your toolbox. For now, I'll see you later. Much love.